Everybody, welcome to Gapology, guys. We are super excited for today. We have two special guests. We have Tiffany and Josh High joining us, and we're really excited about this conversation. They're really connected with Gapology, and how they found it is the most interesting part here, I think. And we're really interested in having them share, the background, how it connects with their business, and so forth. So I'd just like to, first of all, introduce Tiffany and Josh High. Welcome.
How's it going?
Thanks for having us on. I'm excited.
Yeah. And hey, Mark, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited as well.
This is a big show today. Wow, we got 4 people on. Pretty crazy. So we're excited to jump into this conversation and hear about you, your business, how your business started, how all that evolved, and then how you found Gapology.
Yeah. So we own a few companies. It all kind of stemmed about a decade ago. So I spent about 10, 12 years in corporate space, moving all over the country. I was in the oil industry and the building materials industry. And I actually loved my career. So I was like not chasing real estate or anything for some specific reason. But ultimately, my little brother, I'm the oldest of a big family, got diagnosed with cancer. It was probably around 9 years ago now. When I found that out, I felt like there was a duty inside of me that I needed to leave my career to go help my parents. And so when I found out he had cancer, I quit my job that day, got literally packed a blanket, pillow, some clothes in my car, drove home. On the way home, I had Owens Corning Global, who's headquartered by my parents, give me a call and found out that I had left my job that day. So came in the next day, they asked me to come in an interview, took a role, and made it very clear in my interview that I left my job to be present with my brother. And I take this job, and for like the next 5 months, I'm on a flight Monday through Friday again. But I did love the job. So my brother is in Nationwide Children's for 5 months at this time. He was in there for over a year, and it was Good Friday of Easter that year. And I remember looking across the room and looking at my father, and I'm like, how have you not physically left this hospital in 5 months? Like, he hasn't left his side to go home, nothing. And he was like, well, my teams have stepped it up for me. And I don't know, something inside of me called me to leave my job again and do what I said I was going to do and be there for my family. So went back, put a month notice in, and woke up one day and was like, I have no income. What do I do? And so I tried bartending, I tried nannying, I tried selling skincare. And long story short, I went to see this house that my cousin was flipping. And I was like, oh, you're going to make $80,000 flipping this house? And I was like, well, if you can do it, I can do it too. So I maxed out a credit card that day, got educated on learning how to flip a house, and did around 40 houses my first year. And it was just me and Josh kind of on the side of his career. I was just figuring myself out, and I didn't know how to wholesale or do other things in real estate. So going into my second year, I learned how to add another exit strategy, went from 40 to 165 houses, 165 to 300 the next year. And I made a lot of mistakes along the journey. I built a team, crashed the whole company down, and had to rebuild it. And I would say out of that whole corporate career and starting the first company, there was so many leadership lessons of what it took to unify an entire team. And so when we rebuilt the team in year 2 of being an entrepreneur, that was really when Gapology, it was like year 2, 3, somewhere around there, got introduced to us. And it created this very repeatable, fundamental process to lead people and get them on the same page. And that's really when my culture and my team building transformed over time. And we ended up launching a few other companies over the last decade. But it was really pivotal in really creating a system for managing people.
Love that. And Josh, how did you get involved?
Well, when she started the rehabbing houses, I was in construction management. So I worked for a commercial general contractor. And at the time, we thought that it was going to be a construction business. So I was like, I can step in, I can help manage the crews. And we learned real fast that it's not a construction business, it's a sales and marketing business. And when we shifted our focus from construction to sales and marketing, that's when things really took off for us. And I know Tiff mentioned, we had crashed the company down at one point. And, I didn't come from a sales or marketing industry. And when we were learning Gapology, that really paved the way for us to have more clarity on, okay, when you bring a salesperson on, how do we close the knowledge gap, right? With making sure we're putting the right person in the right seat, that we're onboarding them effectively and not just handing them a script. And it doesn't end with onboarding. We've also got the ongoing training as well. And I really looked at the ongoing training and liked to turn that towards treating it like an elite athlete. I played collegiate football at the University of Toledo, and something I saw my coaches did really well was not just building culture, but the ongoing training was something that they had ingrained in us.
The interesting thing I took away there is not just handing somebody a script, not making it robotic, letting the actual person be themselves. I love that. How did you come across that being an effective process?
Well, we tried it and failed at it by just handing them a script. In fact, we didn't even have a script at first. We just said, okay, great. We kind of jived together in an interview. You seem like a good person. We'll hire you. Oh, and by the way, just do as I do, and just expected them to figure it out. And after that all failed, we looked back and said, we absolutely failed these people when we brought them on and didn't train them what to do and exactly how to do it.
It's interesting when you say that. That's how my life was in corporate. I mean, I moved up, I think, 8 times or 10 times in 8 years. And every single role I ever was given, they're just like, here, go, pack your car, move, follow your leader for like 3 days and figure it out. And so that's what I was groomed on. And I would say that I worked for some pretty reputable companies over time. And it just amazes me looking back at how I even succeeded through my corporate career, because there was no such thing as like legit training or management or any type of framework to follow in both of my big companies that I work for.
Yeah, you hit on something that we see all the time, where we have individual contributors that are just really good at their job and they get promoted to be a leader. We call those emerging leaders. And they're just sort of expected to learn by observing other people. It's really critical to look at their leadership skills. Because the transferable skills from being a good individual contributor to being a leader aren't the same. They need to have that additional education. What do you think, Mark?
Well, one of the amazing things that you guys have learned that most don't is that generally the leader is the gap.
Yep.
Generally the leader is the gap. And if you simply look in the mirror and ensure that you've done everything you can do, the gaps start closing. But, you guys found that out and figured it out. And again, most leaders don't.
In corporate space, I felt like it was, at least in my experience, I don't want to say like frowned upon, but you didn't want to make mistakes and you didn't want your leader to know there was gaps. You were always trying to put the good in front of them. And in our companies, we embrace the gaps. And so in order to create a culture of accountability and results, if my people are not failing forward, then we're not learning. And the faster we fail, the faster we succeed. And so we embrace, like throughout our office, we hear this word gap all the time because we embrace closing the gap. And it's actually frowned upon that if you bring a gap to us that you knew was a gap for a while, that's actually worse looked at than just bringing us the problem so we can all collectively solve the problem. And so we use Gapology, and I know we've talked about this offline, is we've created a framework around it by framework, frameworks are a step-by-step process, right, that takes what most people feel is complex, to call it, dumb it down, simplify it, so you can get a repeatable result. You can use it in marketing, recruiting, leading people. And even if you're like an emerging leader, or you have that type of skill set to lead people, that doesn't mean that you actually know how to do it. You might have the ability to, but if someone doesn't equip you with the right systems to follow, then I believe in everything should be systemized, even leadership. And yes, there's soft pieces to leadership, but if you can't give them an easy to follow on how to manage people, then my story is what comes of it. Like, you'll lose me because of it. And so that's what we've created. And so when we started taking front line and developing middle line leaders and then developing them up, we wanted to create a framework of how this organization closes gaps. And we even talk about it in the interview process of, here's how we manage. Here's how we hold people accountable. Here's how we drive results. if you don't like how we do this framework, you will not fit into this culture, essentially. And most times they rave about it in the interview process because they're like, oh, you're actually giving me a tool to understand how I'm going to be held accountable and how we communicate when there is conflict or there are gaps.
Not to mention that they buy in the interview process because everywhere that they've been, there was no real help. It was a go figure it out type of culture. So they love when we explain that.
Yeah, we always say that winning leaders, they want that structure. Oftentimes leaders are afraid of accountability. They're afraid of setting those expectations really clearly. But if you want a winning team, those people really crave that.
Yep. Well, we're here to win. So it's part of our theme and our culture. So
yeah,
our company theme is winning as a habit.
Oh, I love that. Love that. So I do want to learn a little bit more about how you discovered Gapology, how it was brought to your organization.
So when we started building an executive team, we recruited a general manager from Best Buy who is in one of the top 1% of their stores. And when he came in, we were having issues at the time, really grooming frontline talent into team leads and all that. And so he introduced Gapology at that time. And we noticed in our culture that especially the younger frontline generation, especially the more like digital media, they don't know how to communicate effectively. It's like we have to give them some level of structure to be able to communicate because the reality is they grew up in an environment just staring at their iPad and their phone. And so he brought that in and said that, the 1% of the stores were separated by the ones that had executed this process. And for me, I wouldn't say I'm definitely like by any means a natural born leader. That's why I was COO. I'm more of the visionary type A, 100 miles an hour. And so it helped me as well, like at a whole nother level, add some level of structure to having constructive conversations, especially beyond my executive team. Because, my conversations with my executive team are very different than leaders in frontline. And so we're just really big on, our company name is results driven for a reason. And so we are driving a culture of holding people accountable, driving results while still building like a very loving organization. But at the end of the day, like if you walk into our door, we have what we call the red line. If you've ever heard Urban Meyer's book, Above the Line, when he paints that red line on the football field and you cross over that line, it means leave your crap at the door. Like we all have cancer, disease, divorce, problems in our families. But when we enter the sales floor, we're there for one mission. And so it's mission first, then team, then individual. And when we groom this culture and this atmosphere, Gapology fits right into it because Gapology is all about, obviously closing these gaps fast, but holding people accountable to what we said this culture is all about. And it's worked great with us. We've had very, very little turnover in a decade of hiring people.
I'm sort of curious on some success stories outside of just what you've shared so far, like the people that you've influenced using Gapology. Are there success stories you could share possibly with some of those people?
You mean like examples of how we use it with our employees or for
how it's impacted your employees?
I'll give you some like day-to-day examples. So if anyone's listening, they can understand how we leverage it. So for example, let's say that we have a salesperson that's a closer and it's our job, right, as leaders to make sure we onboard them properly. Or first of all, we got to recruit the right talent, put them in the right seat, right? It's my job to onboard them. It's my job to train them daily. And so if one of my closers, like for example, recently, she has been with us for a while, she's a high performer. So it wasn't that she wasn't onboarded. We train her daily. We definitely put the right person in the right seat. Her offers to contract went significantly up. And within 2 weeks, the company, and the importance is when you have a sales team, speaking of sales teams, is that the impact of the numbers, they need to understand the why behind, or they're not going to push forward. And so when we explained to her, hey, the company standard's one of every 2 offers, and you want to 1 of every 6, and the average profit per deal is $20,000. In 2 weeks now, the company has lost $80,000 in opportunity by this one gap. So if the gap continues, just know every single week, if it continues as is, we're losing $40,000.
Not to mention the impact of your commission as well.
Correct. Right? And then we go over that. Like, here's the impact of your numbers, the company numbers. And so clearly, we're not going to allow it to happen for very long. So it's our job, though, to figure out what's causing it. And it starts with having the right tools. So we have scorecards that say, where is the gap that we have to go find? So we have a different framework for that when it comes to sales team. So we have a 6-step process. Anyways, we go to this KPI that's off. We do a CRM audit. We then do sales audits. We diagnose the problem and we find out, okay, you did get some deals. And what we've noticed is there's only one objection that you're not handling correctly out of the deals that you have lost. So we're going to go all in on training you on this objection. We're going to set a deadline. What do you think you could learn this objection in? And she'll state the time, right? 7 days, 14 days, whatever. Okay. On our end, we're going to add 3 times as many call audits. We're going to use the whisper feature to coach you live on the call like a coach does on the basketball court. And then do I have your commitment that you're going to close this gap in 14 days? Yes. Okay. How do you want me to hold you accountable? And she'll say, hey, can you whisper into every one of my offer calls to make sure that you coach me live in case I screw up again? Cool. I'll do that on every call, but you have 14 days. And so do we have a clear understanding? The expectation is 14 days. I'm going to put in XYZ to train you, be there, support you, coach you. Cool. You want me to hold you accountable by whispering in everyone? Awesome. We're going to do touch points in between. When day 14 gets here, if she didn't close the gap, which she did, if she didn't close the gap, she would then fire herself more than likely. She would come to the table and say, this was an action gap. I was not able to fix it. So I obviously wouldn't fire someone that fast. But ultimately, I can put someone on a PIP then because it's like, hey, there was clear expectations. We both agreed. You committed. I held you accountable. And I went above and beyond as a leader. I'm checking every one of these boxes. And it gets their buy-in because we're coming way further their way to get them to success of where they want to be, where they want to go. And if they just can't do it, then it is what it is. You know, a lot of newer leaders are afraid to fire people, manage them, hold them accountable. And this just gives a simplified way to hold people accountable and not make it uncomfortable if someone can't perform. And so what ends up happening, especially in sales roles, when you leverage this framework, it's so black and white that when we come to the accountability conversation, we've had people say, you're right, I'm just not a fit, and they quit instead of getting fired.
I think it's also important to think back to when, like the times before we ever leveraged this, we would always get the excuse from the sales team, all the leads are trash or it's the market. They had all of these excuses, but this allows us to take extreme ownership and drive the behavior that's going to drive the results, as Tiff had mentioned there. So we no longer get that objection. Our team is never saying the leads are bad and that's why I can't perform.
Well, you know, Gapology works and it sort of figures it out. So that's an amazing example of how it works and how to make it work. Where did the terminology framework come from? Because Gapology is clearly a framework, but we never used that term. You guys have really brought it to life. Where did that come from?
If you look at like on the marketing side of things in human psychology, is that they need things to be dumbed down to a 5th grade, 3rd grade type level to really resonate with human beings. And so when you use frameworks, they're step-by-step processes to create a repeatable, predictable result. And so we use frameworks in almost everything that we do. We try to create everything that's repeatable. We try to create a framework. So it's just a process to follow. And that way it leaves less guesswork for people.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, and it is impacting us as well. So as I think we've talked about on the podcast, Mark, that we're in the middle right now of writing the 15th anniversary edition of Gapology. We're updating, we're expanding. We've expanded each of the sections quite a bit, adding in a lot of our learnings from the last 15 years, additional pieces that, we just kind of picked up along the way from our clients and so forth. And that term framework, we're actually including in the book now. It'll be in there as well. So testament to you and your impact. And we're really excited about what you've already done as far as your social media marketing and that some amazing results. Can you share some of that with us?
We made some videos on Gapology and they've gone viral, and it's been interesting to follow because it's still going viral right now. I think it's got like 18 million views or something. I've never seen anything go so viral, and there's a lot of debate in the comments. And it's interesting because, the ones that are against it, I think just might not understand what I was trying to say. Because if you're an employee and you're against it, like in my mind, it's like crazy because the framework actually, in my opinion, holds the leader way more accountable now. And so I think if anything, it's reshaping how corporate should be. The leaders should be taking accountability for their team's results. And so it's just been fun watching the debate in the comments. I think we've had like 300,000. I don't know. I haven't looked today, but it's wild. And, on my end, I got 100,000 new followers from one video. So that was good.
Yeah, it's amazing. Mark, you first heard about the video somewhere. How did you hear about it? Because you texted me about it.
I was at work, and one of the executive assistants who didn't report to me just happened to be in the building, and comes over and says, "Have you heard of Tiffany?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Oh, you gotta watch this Instagram video. I think it's about something you may have written." I said, "What?" "No." So I watched it, then I shared it with Brian. It was amazing, and I felt like, so we've taught Gapology to so many people. I felt like I had taught you guys Gapology, but you did it on your own for the most part.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think that's an amazing thing on your end, just because like this one book that you made a comment before we even started this podcast saying, I'm just trying to change the world. It's fascinating to me because I think there's a bigger opportunity with Gapology, but to know that 50,000 books have been or more have been sold, and knowing that we were able to do this and transform multiple companies with a book, imagine if someone was teaching it at another level.
Yeah. Yeah, the potential's unbelievable. So thank you for demonstrating that and pointing it out.
Yep.
It is so true. Yeah, we've taken great satisfaction at how broad the impact has been. We were able to take it to Africa and teach Christian missionaries Gapology.
Wow.
And it worked. We took it to manufacturing, to sales, to hotels, retail, to what am I forgetting, Brad?
Yeah, legal, medical, yeah, lots of things.
And it literally has worked everywhere. And again, you guys have demonstrated that, but you've also made it your own and innovated within it.
Yep.
And really, it's taken it to another level. So that's quite impressive.
We've had to integrate it a little bit or adapt it just to what we do within our organization. One big thing that we're trying to figure out, and maybe we can talk about it on here or afterwards, is, big gap these days, right, is going to be technology. So it's like between AI or scorecards, tracking tools, tools and systems, essentially. And so when we go through Gapology, that's a common gap is, for example, especially for the people we consult thousands of people across the country, is, they're like, for example, they're trying to lead a phone sales team without a scorecard. So we're like, okay, we know the person's not performing, but you have no numbers tracking why they're not performing. So you're just guessing all over the place. Versus if you had a concrete KPI scorecard, we can say, okay, yes, she's not performing, but this is the only KPI that's off, and it's in the offer part of this big process. And so we've incorporated our own new framework for that aspect of Gapology. So we have a separate framework that ties into it if we see that it is like a tool system resource that is missing as the gap.
Yeah, we talk a lot about result expectations. And you mentioned earlier KPIs. Key performance indicators, for any of you that don't know what that is. And you have to have that for every role, every project, et cetera, depending on what business you're in. But you also then have to define the behavior that creates that KPI. And once you have those and are holding people accountable to achieve those results, the amazing thing is, how high can you go? And the other thing is that if you then separate out the top 10% in those KPIs and look at them differently, look at them separately, and look at the behaviors that likely they are using to produce the best of the KPIs within the group, you can also learn things that then the whole group can benefit from. So that's really what we did when we discovered Gapology, is we really took a close look at the top 10%. How in the world are they producing these numbers? Similar to the Best Buy example you gave.
Yep.
A top performing Best Buy store is extremely difficult to operate. And if you look at the behaviors within that building, that general manager, they're doing a lot of things different than the rest of the group. And the learning that can come from that can be spread through the entire organization is amazing. Brian and I were with Best Buy. It's been a year now, huh, Brian?
Yeah.
And teaching Gapology to a large group there.
Yep.
And amazing what can happen.
Yeah, I think Gapology helps open the book and avoid conflict. And then the next step is the organization even tracking the numbers? Because if we're not tracking the numbers, there's no way to find the gap anyways. So it starts there. But yeah, it's been a game changer just from a cultural perspective more than anything. It's, it allows our younger people and our senior people to just follow a unified way of managing people. Where in corporate space, every leader kind of had their own way of holding people accountable. And so there was favoritism of who you wanted to work for and, all that, where we don't want that. It's every leader is held to this standard of how they manage people. And it's really helped the organization be uniformed.
And what I love about that is that it's not just the leader holding people accountable, but it's creating a culture of accountability where everyone knows what's expected of them, what the priorities are, what they're going to be measured on, and so forth. You kind of create that so that right from the start, like you said, in your interviews, you're laying all this stuff out so people know day one what they're going to be accountable for.
If you want, I can go over the KPI 6-step framework we came up with that we use with Gapology. So if you're on here and you do track your KPIs, we call it our 6-step audit framework. And essentially step 1 is you identify the red flags. So in all of our scorecards, they're color coded to be, green, yellow, red. If something's red, it screams out gap immediately, right? So when the scorecard's done at the end of the day, everyone has line of sight to where a gap is. The leader then has to go in and do what we call a CRM audit. And so let's just say it was in the offers. They'll go pull every offer that individual did during the time in which they weren't performing. Then we do call audits. So we listen to every one of those calls and fill out a report. Then we diagnose the problem. Then we create a training plan, and then we coach and execute. And that's our 6-step framework. So that way we can then take that framework, come back to Gapology and say, okay, we found the problem. We've diagnosed it. Do you agree? Great. Do I have your commitment now to fix this problem? But without the KPIs being tracked, you can't ever really figure out what gaps being had. So we see a lot of our clients that we consult, they'll say, oh, I fired this person, or this person's performing, or I'm burnt out here. And it's you don't even know why they're not performing because you have no numbers you're holding them accountable to. So we don't even know what to fix. So the first part is we got to fix you. And we've got to give you the tools and systems to even run the team in the right way. So the people aren't the problem. You're the problem. The leader's the problem. And once we put those tools in place, then we got to go back. My guess is if you didn't put the tools in place, you never onboarded them right in the first place. So we've got to go back to square one and revamp them through this whole process and get them bought in that now you're accountable to these numbers. And that's what we basically see on a daily basis with a lot of the clients we work with.
And I think that's amazing that you do that daily. Oftentimes, I think people use the week kind of as the measurement.
Now, every team in our organization has a huddle. They have to go over yesterday's metrics out loud. So if they are held accountable to 3 major metrics, they're going to say what yesterday's metrics were in front of the team.
That's awesome. It works.
Yeah.
It's helped us save lost opportunities, or what would have been lost opportunities.
Yeah, I would say millions of dollars. Because if a lot of our clients, they'll say, oh, we'll meet with our team maybe once a week, or I'll train them once a week. And we always go over the theory of Michael Jordan, right? The most elite athletes in the world, the LeBron James, I'm a basketball player, that's why I bring up Michael, but, do they step on the court once a week or every day? Probably 3 times a day. And so if you want the Michael Jordans on your team, you have to be Phil Jackson worthy of getting Michael Jordan. What does Phil Jackson do when Michael Jordan's dribbling the ball with his team down the court during a game? He coaches live. He's not absent from the game, right? So like a lot of my clients will be wearing too many hats and they won't be, for example, on the sales floor coaching their team live. And one missed sales opportunity in my office is $20,000 to $30,000 every time someone doesn't land a deal. And so if you're not looking at these things every day, you're doing them an injustice and your own company an injustice. And if that means you need a team lead or something, and they're like, oh, I'm worried about the cost of a team lead. Okay, so what is it? Call it $4,000 base a month. One opportunity will pay for that person to make sure that every opportunity is taken advantage of. I just think that a lot of people, they don't follow the framework well enough, and they think, oh, I'm training once a week, I'm training once a month, or I'm meeting someone every other week. Well, is that really going to drive results? It's not. Michael Jordan didn't meet with his coach once a week. He was literally being coached every day, all day. And then we look at like KPIs. I always explain the game. If Michael Jordan, who's the best in the game, right, is in a playoffs and his normal free throw percentage is 92%, and they go into this game and they lose by 2 points, but his free throw percentage was at 70%. Instead of trying to fix everything before the next game, the plays, this, that, if he would have just had that one KPI back up towards his average, they would have won the game. And so instead of like waking up the next day trying to practice everything, no, they said, Michael, you're going to shoot 500 free throws before the next game, because that's the one thing that cost us the game. And so when I explain it in those theories, a lot of times people have aha moments like, yeah, that makes sense. And so then it's like, hey, if you want this result, it's learn, do, become. First, we have to learn how to do it, right? Then we have to do what the education told us to do. And then we have to become the person that deserves the result. And so if we want this result, we got to become the Phil Jackson if you want the Michael Jordan on your team, or you're never going to attract the Michael Jordan or get Michael Jordan's results.
Love that. And that model sounds like knowing, doing, being, right, Mark?
Yeah. Yeah.
Learn, do, become. Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love all that. And I do want to mention that, Tiffany, so you've written the foreword to our 15th anniversary edition, and Mark and I were blown away by this. We're planning to launch the new edition this summer. And, I think the foreword really sets the tone for this new version of this. So I want to thank you for that. And I'd just love to sort of wrap this up with, what if you had to deliver like your top 3 or 5 tips for our viewers, from what you know about Gapology, from other things that you've learned, what would be those top tips?
Closing gaps. We'll look at this in 2 ways. If you're in corporate space, if I would have had Gapology back in the day, I can't imagine how much more effective I would have been at, one, getting promoted, becoming a leader much faster, driving revenue for the organization because I would learn how to close gaps faster. I would build more influence across my organization because a lot of times gaps create conflict, and Gapology resolves that. There is no conflict. It creates this black and white environment of how do we just close the gap? It's not you, it's not me. This just tells us, hey, I got a box, I got to go check. I'm going to go do my job. Come back to the table, right? If you're in corporate space and you're building a career, embrace this and teach your leader it, and ask your leader, can I manage you through Gapology, right? Because it's not the leader just managing me. It's my job to manage up. And the better you get at managing up, the faster you move up.
Actually, I want to chime in on that. That is a huge side effect, a good side effect that we've seen by creating this culture of accountability. For example, like an executive admin. Now that we've taught our executive admin Gapology, if we're on the fly and we're saying, hey, can you do this for me? They're following up, making sure they know clear expectations, clear deadline, all of that stuff. What level of priority? They're asking these follow-up questions now because they know the framework as well. So that's been a huge side effect of creating this culture of accountability.
Yeah, so employees challenge us back now. They're like, hey, you asked me to do something. You didn't tell me why. You didn't set the expectation. I don't know the deadline. So they now follow back to us and hold us accountable, which is important. This isn't just a one-way street. And as an entrepreneur, if someone's watching this and they own a company, most entrepreneurs got there because they are the doer. They run 100 miles an hour. We are drivers. A lot of feedback of most drivers is that we tend to make people feel like we're leaving them behind, or we talk too fast, or we're not patient enough. And Gapology gives us a way to slow down and build culture around it, a culture of accountability and results. And so I would take Gapology, and a lot of times an entrepreneur isn't a born leader. They're, like I said, a driver. And this gives them a simple to understand framework to instill into their organization as they build it. And they should leverage this in the interview process in day one at the company, setting the expectation of this is how we operate. They should put it up in their office, and then they should live it out every day in the organization so that it's ingrained that this is how we lead people.
Love that. So how can people get in touch with you and the stuff that you do there?
I put out tons of free content on social media. So if you follow us on Instagram, it's Tiffany High Official and Josh High Official.
Okay, perfect. And your website?
It's www.resultsdrivenrei.com.
And you guys are doing a podcast now too, right?
Yes, I haven't taken it like ultra serious yet, but yes, we do have a podcast. It's for experienced real estate investors. So it's kind of advanced in a lot of my topics, very niche, and it's called the Results Driven Podcast.
That's awesome. And you have a really cool set there. Love that.
Yep.
And your marketing team is fantastic. Your social media stuff is amazing. So I don't know how many people do you have on that team?
8 and 10.
Yeah, 8 to 10.
Yeah, that's massive. I mean, you put out content every single day. So wonderful. So I appreciate your being on. Mark, is there any last comments you have there?
Well, I'm very proud of Josh and Tiffany for taking Gapology and making it their own and innovating within that and really making it work. And very proud to have Tiffany have written the forward for Gapology's 15th anniversary edition. So,
well, put tears to my eyes when you guys reached out asking for it, because it was very transformative for us. So it means a lot that I even got the opportunity. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time to share the framework with the world.
Yeah. Yeah, more than anything, I'm just glad that you took the time to write it.
Yeah. It took years to write and fully understand, but it's been worth it. And it's been an amazing journey, and the number of people that have been impacted is just, unbelievable. And you guys are part of that. But Josh, your videos are really good too.
Hey,
I don't know why
it's hard to compete with this beautiful face, so
maybe we need to have you go viral with a Gapology video.
Maybe we should. That's a good idea.
Yeah. I look forward to more partnership and hearing more ideas. So, but very proud of both of you.
I appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much, Tiffany and Josh. I appreciate you guys being on the program today. We're excited for this one. We worked really hard to get this one scheduled, and I appreciate you.
Sorry, I had surgery last month, so it took a little while to get in.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, no, it's perfect. So thank you, everybody, for joining today. Everybody have a fantastic week. We'll talk to everybody soon.
Thanks, everyone.